Hello everyone, this is Coach Dinosaur. Today, I will be sharing with you the part 3 of the Sicilian defense under Dragon, the Levenfish. Here, white plays e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, g3, and now knight f4. Knight c6 is played. uh, in the part 2 we talk about knight takes c6. In this video I will be sharing with you what if knight moves to f3. So here is a Sicilian type where um, white uses a setup in a Sicilian defense with Grand Prix attack. So Grand Prix attack normally uses e4 and f4 in such a Sicilian setup. So today we will talk about how we can play such lines. So bishop g7, bishop d3. Here white can also play bishop c4, but bishop d3 is more decent plan for white. So we will talk about on the bishop d3. So queen b6 so that the white king cannot develop the king yet, and to disrupt white's safety plan. So white plays queen e2, and then here there are two other possibilities. We will talk about queen e2 later on. So there are others such as bishop d2. Of course, bishop d2, this is a very dangerous move, which I don't recommend because of this. Rook b1, and now after queen a4, and of course check. So white created some tricky line, but after bishop d2, just ignore that pawn, just play knight b4 instead. Knight b4 threatens the bishop on bishop d3, and at the same time the plan is still on. So here white can play bishop check, and for example queen e2 castle, and bishop e3. This is a not so good position. Black can create a aggressive approach. Knight takes c2, incredible. So of course queen captures leads to pawn disadvantage. Here black is 1 pawn advantage, and for example he plays here bishop e6, queen d2, bishop takes. Sure. And if for example he plays g3, and white loses the knight. And if again queen e2, queen captures f4. So an aggressive line. The best way to protect the bishop on e3 is to use the bishop takes c2. Absolutely. White can now capture the b2, but as you know, in this position, black exchanges the piece for 2 pawns, but white's position, the knight and the rook are hanging pieces. So if, for example, white castles, of course, this is leading to 2 pawns advantage for black. Again, if you use the knight to protect itself, queen will just capture the rook. So white has to use a move where it can protect the knight and the rook at the same time. So there you go. King d2 is the move. King d2 protects the rook on a1 and at the same time the knight on c3. But black has a very good plan. Check. Good move. Of course, the bishop on c2 is pinned by the queen, and the only way to capture the knight is use the knight on c3. So knight takes e4, and black, if you calculated, it's already 2 pieces for 3 pawns, but he can get back the rook. Check. Good move. King d1 and bishop takes a1. I have games years ago in this kind of position, and white plays queen d2. I played queen a6, and then king e2, king captures, and eventually with the rook plus 4 pawns against bishop 2 knights is eventually a very good position for black, and I eventually won that game. Again, we have another set. So we talk about bishop d2, which is a tricky move, giving up the pawn on b2, and we just played the knight b4, and instead of queen e2, now we will talk about bishop b5. Check. Here black should protect the check. Bishop d7, capture, knight takes a3, and now knight a6. This is quite weird for black's position, but black is doing fine, and the white king is still yet to castle, while black's king can easily castle. And the bishop on g7, the queen on b6 are quite useful for white to display a slight advantage in this position. And if, for example, rook protects the pawn, then black can just easily play knight c7, protecting the plan of knight d5. Alright, so if here castle, and this is not also possible because of bishop takes. So black's position still has the edge. Alright, so we will not proceed with this line. So instead of bishop d2, alright, white can also play h3, preventing knight g4, and while waiting for black's response. Again, when white plays h3, the square on g3 is vulnerable, which means the knight on f6 can easily capture that square with a knight h5. So instead of knight h5, of course, we should remove the d3 bishop, because the d3 is the connection between the e4 and the c2 pawn, and with that, black should take control of d3. And here there are means to prevent such capture. So we have bishop c4, and example if white plays queen a knight a4, then there will be and then after that, knight c3, knight takes, c takes d3, and then b5. Alright, equal, but black has two bishops, and those two bishops are in the open positions. Of course, this is not a possible move because of simple this move, and then f takes, and now knight d5, which is a very good position for, if for example he plays queen b3, knight takes, pawn takes, and now bishop e6, and it's really good to play for line capture. And here white has weaknesses: the e5, the b4, and the d3, and of course the knight will be captured the next move. Right. So aside from the bishop c4 or knight a4 after knight b4, aside from knight a4, black can also play bishop e2, but after that move there is knight h5, and again if check, king f8, a3, knight a6. An awkward position for white. Why? Because even though the black's king cannot castle, there are still undeveloped squares and pieces for white, and even the king also is widely open, and we don't suggest this for white. We don't suggest to play this for white, and black has really good slightly edge here. Even black has an edge already. So bishop e2 is not possible. So now bishop c4, here black can now play knight h5. Of course, if white plays knight e2, then we can say d5, good move. Again, black is example, if pawn captures and it threatens the knight capturing the c2, and if it protects, rook c8, putting pressure If knight f, of course, if you play this, then easily. And if you move here, there will be good move, capture, bishop takes d4, and it's really a very good position for black. Since, for example, you play bishop, and it's just totally a disaster because the white rook is really, yeah, and it's a winning, really winning position. Now, aside from that, good move. If, for example, black plays d5, capture, e takes d5, castle, c4, and e6. Because in such position, the white center is vulnerable, and it's really not in good square. So, for example, we have capture, b takes, queen c2, rook a3, which is not really good for white, and bishop takes. Of course, this is not possible because of this, and really white has a lot of weaknesses. And if he plays d6, there is rook d8. Absolutely, again, this will lead to rook capture pawn. Now, if there is an aggressive plan, you know, black will just go back and prepares still rook takes pawn. And there is also knight e4. Again, this will fall. So, aside from those moves, the bishop d2 and a h3 move, right? So after queen queen b6, we talked about bishop d2 and also h3. So again, both moves, black can just play knight b4. So now we will proceed to study now queen e2. So queen e2, black can now castle first. Again, here white has four options. All right. So the main option is the rook b1, but we just talk about one by one first. There is a possibility that black can also play queen e3. So queen e3, we can just capture, and after that knight b4 again. Remember, this knight can exchange to the d3, which is bishop d3 is a good bishop. So after this, preventing the knight moving to g4, we have g6, and after a3, and knight takes, pawn takes, and bishop b7, rook c1, and it looks drawish, but I like black's position because it has two bishops, and at the same time very dangerous diagonals. So here black can play e5 as my position. If, for example, capture, then we have capture. Of course, this is not possible because of this. And if we just ignore that, then we have knight h5, so which is really good because the pawn on d3 is weak. And for example, we have this, and now this is really a weakness. And we will just ignore, because this is really good move. And here, and black is fine in this position. Okay, now let's talk about more. So aside from e3, aside from queen e3, black can also play queen f2, but after, again, queen takes, king takes, and again knight b4. A very popular idea, as you can see, against such opening, the Levenfish. So this would still give black a fine position. So aside from that, there is also bishop d2. Alright, so here black can now grab the pawn. Right? So there's no like rook, this move, and castle, if, and white castles. If, for example, black plays here now, and then c3, and now queen h5. Alright, so now if black plays castle, we suggest a3 to prevent the rook or the knight moving to b5, king h6 preventing queen c5 check. Here we suggest of course b5 move. So for example, he plays this, and I think black has an edge already on this kind of setup. You may further study this line, but this is a guarantee that black is doing fine in this position. So we have queen e3, queen f2, and bishop d2. So this is not possible. Looks like a tricky, but it's not a tricky now. Unlike just now that the black king has not castle, it was not a tricky line. Now, instead of bishop d2, we also have knight d1, protecting now the pawn on b2. At the same time, the bishop on c1 can move on bishop e3. Right. So here, black should play now e5, a very aggressive line. And again, you can study knight b4. Knight b4 is also fine, but I suggest a very good plan, e5. Again, if bishop e3, we have bishop e3 and f takes e5, but we simply study this first. If bishop e3, then we can follow knight d4. Of course, if bishop takes, and white wants to capture that pawn, it's not possible because of this move, bishop takes, and now rook e8. Because this bishop on g7 and the queen is now protecting, but the bishop is really in a big trouble. So example, he plays here, boom. So if after the e takes and now white just castle, bishop d7, black has a very good position. Eventually, I believe that white's position is not good because of the weakness on e4 and also on b2. For example, he plays further b3. Then we can have this move, rook a, knight f, bishop c6, and after like this, knight captures, knight takes, and f5, which is a very good position for black. Now, instead of bishop e3 straight away, okay, after the e5, white can also capture the pawn, as we have mentioned. So now knight takes e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5, again bishop e3, so that there is no knight d4. Again here check, bishop d2. Of course, if you really want to draw, if your opponent is a grandmaster, why not? But if you really want to proceed for winning, then you can play queen d6, castle, knight h5, and here really black has a slightly advantage. Two bishops, both have two bishops, but black's position has more space and can clearly move the pieces. Of course, example he plays here, there is already knight f4, which is really good. So if bishop takes, then this leaves black really have two good bishops, and f pawn and the kingside pawns are quite dangerous. It might create an onslaught attack on the king side. Okay, so it's really good to have such position after that. And now here is the last option that black can play. So instead of knight d1, we can have rook b1 here, so that black can easily play bishop e3. Again, there is e5, and if black plays bishop e3, of course queen f2, rook takes, king takes is still a very good position for black. So after rook b1, again, sorry, yes, after rook b1, now we have e5, and after bishop e3, knight d4. Here white plays queen d2, bishop h6, good move. Of course, this is not a possible move because of bishop takes e3, queen takes e3, and then knight takes e2. A very good position and wonderful. It's already winning super. And now after bishop h6, instead white should castle. Again, bishop takes. If bishop takes f4 is really a bad move, check, double check, and then now if capture, good move, queen takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes d2, rook takes f6, e takes d4, knight b5, bishop e6, capture, and rook d8, capture, moves here, and if yeah, and it's really not a good I think I like I really like black's position. it has very active two bishops, and black has also one pawn advantage here, and for example he plays here again. Black can also capture pawns. Check first, good move, and again capture. Rook again, if rook takes and it's really not a good position. Rook d2 putting pressure. Rook 7 to a3, and now rook b will give white a headache. And I hope you liked the video. You can further study more and prepare for other possible moves, or if you have some questions about this opening, you can also check out your engine, or study it over the board for you to learn something. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you like this video. Please subscribe again for new updates of videos that will give you additional knowledge or some ideas against, or if you are also playing as white, then you do have some knowledge on how to deal with black. But this opening is really for black. Thank you for watching.